There was a time when one man truly believed he could reshape an entire continent with his will alone. Now, that man stands alone on a barren island, waves crashing below, exiled at the edge of the world. This is Saint Helena, the last stage for Napoleon Bonaparte. Just a few years earlier, his power stretched across almost all of continental Europe. Kings fell, borders shifted, old states vanished under a new order designed in his name. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who tried to redesign Europe and paid the price. Stay tuned and subscribe for the next epic story. Your support means everything. When Napoleon enters the stage, Europe is already burning with revolution. In Paris, royalty falls, symbols of the old world burn, and ordinary people believe they can build a new order. But freedom comes with chaos, civil war, mass executions, and fear spreading to palaces across the continent. Coalitions form again and again to crush revolutionary France, not just as a nation, but as an idea. Napoleon is born in Ajaccio, Corsica, in 1769, on a rough island recently taken by France. Far from grand palaces, he grows up where the winds are harsh and the distance to power feels enormous. His minor noble family can send him to a military academy on the mainland. There, he excels in math and artillery, but his Corsican accent marks him as an outsider. In the 1790s, command in Italy gives him a chance to prove himself. With undersupplied troops, he defeats larger, older armies and forces Austria to negotiate. On the battlefield, he's more than brave. He's precise, treating war like a deadly equation. On these maps, before he touches Europe itself, he learns how to redraw the ground beneath his enemy's feet. Meanwhile, in Paris, the Directory is weak, corrupt, and losing support. In November 1799, Napoleon joins a conspiracy to end it. Soldiers flood the chambers, politicians are pushed aside, and in one turbulent day, the system changes. The Consulate is born. France still calls itself a republic, but real power now sits in one chair. In 1804, inside Notre Dame Cathedral, Napoleon climbs higher still. Before thousands, and with the Pope watching, he crowns himself Emperor of the French. It is more than ceremony. It's a declaration that his authority comes from his own achievements, not ancient tradition. Within a few years, his empire dominates the map of Europe. He becomes King of Italy, reshapes the German lands, and puts his relatives on thrones from Holland to Naples. Borders are erased and redrawn. Old kingdoms vanish. New states appear at his command. Inside his empire, he spreads new laws. The Napoleonic Code. It brings more uniform rules, merit-based advancement, and the end of many feudal privileges. But his most stubborn enemy, Britain, refuses to yield. Unable to defeat it at sea, Napoleon tries to cripple it with the Continental System, a vast trade blockade. He's no longer just fighting wars, he's trying to rewire the entire economy of Europe. But every new law, every new border, every new demand creates resistance. Years of war bleed France and its allies dry. Once invincible armies now slog through mud and snow, far from home. Resistance flares in occupied lands. Every victory creates new enemies. In 1814, coalition armies push all the way into Paris. Napoleon abdicates and is exiled to the tiny island of Elba in the Mediterranean. His empire shrinks to a dot on the map, but his ambition does not. In 1815, he escapes, returns to France, and in the 100 Days regains power once more. It all comes down to one last battle, Waterloo. On a rainy June day in 1815, French and Allied forces clash in brutal, muddy fighting. For much of the day, the outcome hangs in the balance. When fresh enemy troops arrive and his attacks fail to break through, his army collapses. He abdicates again. This time, his enemies send him far from Europe with no second chance. Saint Helena is a speck of rock in the South Atlantic, chosen because escape is nearly impossible. At Longwood House, damp and windswept, he lives under strict British watch. He walks the small garden, reads and dictates his story, trying to control how history will remember him. He dies here in 1821, buried in a quiet valley on the island he never leaves. After his fall, the victors gather at the Congress of Vienna to redraw Europe once more. They undo much of his work, but not all. Borders shift, yet his laws and ideas live on. Today, his statues stand before modern skylines. Some see a reformer, others a conqueror. Maybe he is both. What happens when one person believes only they can decide a continent's future? If you had lived then, would you have followed him or fought against him? This is Through the Ages. Subscribe to explore more leaders who tried to bend history to their will, sometimes reshaping the world, sometimes destroying themselves.